विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा. Welcome all of you to our daily Bhagavad Gita reading session. By the mercy of the Lord and Vaishnavas, we have completed the chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita. Today is our 45th session and we are going to step in to chapter 2. Let us see what all has happened until now. Just a quick recap. In chapter 1, we have seen that it is divided into 5 sections. Many different acharyas or authors, they divide in different categorically. But for our understanding, I find that this is quite reasonable. It started with Dhritarashtra's inquiry. Although this inquiry seems very obvious and redundant, but it is not. So in this, we have seen how Dhritarashtra is selfish and how he is partial, and that very question, is revealing his heart, how he is so desirous, how he is doubtful, how he is fearful, as well as hopeful. All these things, all these questions is arising in Dhritarashtra's mind because of dharma, dharma khetra. Kurukshetra, where the battle is being fought, that is a dharma khetra. At times we are confused and we do not know what is the right thing to do, because what is the right thing to do means that is dharma. So this dharma gives rise to many such questions in our life, whether we should do this, whether we should do that, even though something we are very much inspired from within to at least grab or enjoy, or that might not be a injunction from the Shastra, that might not be coming from the moral principles, but from our liking and disliking, we are inclined to act in a particular way because of our past conditioning. But all the human being has some discriminatory power, so sometimes he is reflecting and asking the questions to himself, whether this is right thing to do or not. So this chapter 1 basically is introducing ourselves into dharma. What is the right thing to do? What is the right thing to do? And that's a $1 million question. The way you identify yourself, that gives rise to your dharma. Dhritarashtra here is identifying himself as a greedy father. So he is thinking that his dharma is to grab the kingdom or get the kingdom to his son by hook and crook. That he is identifying his dharma. And very diligently he is following that. But is it at the appropriate level? No. Dhritarashtra identifying himself as a greedy father is not at all a highest identity. Forget about the highest identity, even It's very inferior identity. By this means, when a father is greedy and anyhow wants to please his son, then he will not never bring benefits to his son. That also we can very easily understand in our day-to-day life. Sometimes we have to say no to our kids because if the requests are reasonable, it's okay to fulfill that and go ahead. If the requests are not reasonable, then we have to say no to it. So I think I will take another class, to discuss about the relevance of chapter 1 into our life straight away. Although we have discussed some points, but I will summarize the chapter 1's verses into our application of day-to-day life. We can do it sometime later. Then the second section is the Duryodhan compares army. In response to Dhritarashtra's question, Sanjaya is responding to the despondent king that, oh my king, do not be so doubtful or fearful. Your son Duryodhan is now going to consult with the teacher Dronacharya, and now you hear what all activities are happening. So and in this set of 10, how much? 1.2 to 1.11, in this set of 11 verses, we saw Duryodhan's diplomacy and how he is fearful by seeing the Pandavas are. Then in the third section, we saw various signs of victory. So here a battle is going to be fought, and that battle is fought based upon the religious principle, based on the dharma, because the battle is fought in the dharma khetra, and the father of religion, Krishna, he himself is present, and in this the righteous persons are definitely will emerge as victorious. So various signs or indications are there already before the battle begins, and we saw from verse number 12 to 19 some of these signs. And here we saw conch shells are blown by the warriors from both the sides. Even though you see our Vedic tradition was so rich, even a war has to be fought with principles. Principles are first, and then the action itself. Unless and until the chieftain Bhishmadev blew the conch shell, no any warrior can shoot the arrow. So that rich was our Vedic culture. Even at the sunset, the war will finish, and afterwards, the enemies can also visit the opposite camps, and they can talk. They can also have dinner together. All these things are also possible. It's not that looking at the opportunity, somebody will kill. No, that was not the Vedic culture. And in the fourth section, we saw again how Arjuna is observing the army. So that's the reason this chapter is also called sometimes Sanya Nirikshana Yoga. Why? Because Duryodhan is seeing the army and he's comparing, and now Arjuna is also observing the armies. Arjuna is seeing the relatives. Various 5 levels of relatives or 5 generations of relatives he has explained. And from the conception of Durbuddhir, Dhartarashtra se Durbuddhir, he is developing a conception of Swajanam. Swajanam. So how I can fight with my own kinsmen, with my own relatives. And in this section particularly, the theme which is becoming very evident and which is emerging out is Bhakta Vasyal nature of Krishna. Although Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is the Supreme Master, how he is introduced to the whole world in Bhagavad Gita as a charioteer driver. He is introduced in Bhagavad Gita as a charioteer driver. Why? Because Krishna, no matter what he does, he is Krishna. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the Master of universe. He is the Master of entire material creation and spiritual creation. So, whatever he does, there is no insecurity from his side. There is no fear from his side that, oh, I will be defamed. He is not at all worried for his, glorification. Rather, he is always keen to see our purifications. In whatever way, if his activities is giving a chance for our heart to be purified, he doesn't hesitate to take that road. And he is Achyuta, he never deviates to show his affection towards his devotee. He is supremely kind towards his devotee. Here Arjuna is his dear devotee and friend, and he wants to give service to his devotees. Like always, his devotees are eager to serve the Supreme Lord, and Supreme Lord is also always eager and always see the opportunity how I can serve my devotees. That we have seen not only in this, in various other incidents, how Lord Jagannath, is coming and reciprocating with his devotees, and many other areas also like Bithal ji, and Gopal ji. So many such instances are there. So here Arjuna orders Krishna to bring the chariot to the middle of the army, and Krishna, without asking any question, without giving any lecture, he drags the chariot to the middle of the army. And how Krishna is a Bhakta Vasyala. And you see, charioteer driver is not a simple job. This is like so menial service. The master or the warrior who is sitting in the back, how he is giving the orders to the charioteer driver, by just kicking on his back. Because the war is a very emergent affair. There should not be any time lag. If at all something has to be done, it has to be very quick. So a warrior doesn't have any time to speak, to the charioteer driver. So sometimes, most of the time, he kicks the back of the charioteer driver. If he wants to take the chariot to the right, he will kick on the right portion of the back. Similarly to the left. So you see, Krishna doesn't hesitate to get the heat of Arjuna's feet. Knowing this, it will increase our love towards Krishna. So this is Krishna as Bhakta Vatsala in the 4th section, and in the 5th section we saw Arjuna is giving various arguments of not fighting. So this is sometimes excellent examples of pratyaksha. How pratyaksha, there are 3 levels, 3 ways how we get the knowledge. One is pratyaksha. That means by our direct perception we can get the knowledge. Then anumana, by the inferences, by our past perceptions, by seeing some symptoms, we can also get the knowledge. We can infer that this might have happened. Like if we see smoke in the top of the mountain, we will infer that there, the trees must have catch fire. Otherwise, how come and there is fire, there is smoke on the top of the mountain, that is called inference. Even though we don't see the trees are burning, but we can infer that. So this is anumana pramana. And third is sabda pramana. Pramana means the source, the source of getting knowledge. So in Vedic context, so these are the three ways or sources how we can get the knowledge, and out of which the inferior, the superior is the sabda pramana. The sabda pramana is like a word of mouth, or that word of mouth should be from a authority. It is not by any ordinary means, by the authority. Like for example, if you want to get to know your father, what is the best way to know it? Can it be pratyaksha? No. You are not there, or your senses are not developed when you get birth. Neither you are alive, before that. So, and anumana, if you go on inferring, your lifetime might not be enough to get to know. Or if you go in like in a pratyaksha replacement, if you go by experimenting, by genetical studies or DNA, at least it will take many years for you to come to a conclusion. But then what is the right source is the sabda. Sabda, by the words of your mother, whatever she says, that is the highest proof. Oh, my dear child, there is your father. Please offer your obeisances to him. Please offer your respect to him. He is the source of your life. So that's the sabda pramana. So similarly, sabda here refers to the sound vibrations coming from the mouth of the Supreme Lord himself. So this Veda, this is the sabda, because it has emanated from the sound vibration of the Supreme Lord. So these are the supreme truth. They are the supreme truth. They are the source of supreme knowledge. And here you see how Arjuna, seeing his relatives getting into a misconception or misidentification, and completely going away from his duty. So this is pratyaksha. He is seeing his relatives, and that is putting him in a bewilderment state, in a confusion and illusory state. So sometimes this pratyaksha leads to also illusion. We might be very confident of the situation. Oh, I'm seeing it. Like people say that seeing is believing. Because we are imperfect, we are having imperfect senses, and we are most of the time illusioned, and we commit mistakes, and we have a cheating propensity. So that's the reason, because of this four reason, the pratyaksha is not a highest level of getting knowledge. So that's the reason all the scientific experiments, they came from the pratyaksha. So most of the time you might see a new theory will develop and it will overrule the old theory. And that's how the scientific progress is going on. So that means what is already there in the God's creation, the scientist can just only tap some part of it, some fraction of it, and postulating via theory. Because when God creates this universe, he creates this universe with order. There is some rules behind it. He doesn't interfere. Okay, since there is order behind it, just to tap this and postulating by a theory is possible, because there is consistency in God's creation. So yeah, this is how it is. But then pratyaksha is not a highest level of getting knowledge, and rather sabda is the highest. Sabda, here you see, and now Krishna is going to speak the Bhagavad Gita the knowledge, the wisdom of the life, and that reinstate Arjuna into his perfect identity, and he get to know his duty, and at last he is telling that Stitosmi gata sandeha karisya vachanam tava. You know, Stitosmi gata sandeha. I am now perfectly situated, and all my illusion has gone, Krishna. How it is coming? It is coming from Sabda. So Sabda is the highest level of knowledge. Okay, so the last verse here, okay, in this section Arjuna is stating 4 reasons: compassion, no enjoyment, sinful reaction, and destruction of family tradition. Here you see Arjuna is very thoughtful, you know, and he has quoted that whatever arguments he is giving, it's not mind made. These are all coming from his education, Anusushruma. Whatever he has studied, and using this knowledge, he is putting his arguments. And we will see how Krishna one by one refute the arguments of Arjuna in chapter 2. It will be really very interesting, and you will really appreciate the genius of Krishna, you know, how he is refuting the arguments one by one. And here Arjuna, you see, he is also a foresighted personality. He is thinking about the present, you know, he is thinking about the present. Presently, his heart is very soft, and he is kind of he's in a very difficult situation. Lot of bodily symptoms are seen, and you know, he is weak-hearted now. He is feeling very lowly. That is because of compassion. His present condition, he is stating, that's the reason. Oh, because of this, I am not feeling like to fight. And then he is little bit thinking far, that oh, even if we win the battle, then there will be no enjoyments, because all our relatives will be killed. Then with whom we will share this happiness? And then he is also thinking beyond this life. He is thinking that oh, let's assume that we will be leading a happy life, but what will happen to the life after this? Life after this will be, we will be suffering the sinful reactions. So there is no point, you know. So then he is not only thinking about him, he is thinking about the community, you know. So okay, I may incur sin and go through the sinful reaction in next life. Will the society or my community or my relatives, will they lead a happy life? No, they will not lead a happy life. He is giving all such complications and logical arguments, what all will be the effect of destruction of the family traditions. So Kulakshaya give rise to, you know, adharma avibhavati. Acha, Kulaskaya, yeah, give rise to dharma pranashyati, then adharma abhivavati, then kulastriya pradushyanti, then varna sankara jayate, then patanti pitaro, then everybody will go to hell, narake niyatam basa, and ussadante jati dharma and kula dharma. All the community welfare projects will start. So all such things we have discussed. No? So Arjuna is not selfishly thinking, but he's quite broad mind. But you see, even though in those logical arguments, he is identifying himself to this body. That's the reason all his arguments are not at the highest level. You know? So the way we identify, in that way, the scriptures will tell us, oh, this is your dharma. Scriptures are very neutral, you know. scriptures, the Vedas are very neutral. If someone is not going to ask him, you see a very nice example. Who are the followers of Veda? They also worship different demigods or devatas. Why it is so? You might say that, oh, is Veda not giving the ultimate conclusion whom to worship? No, it really gives whom to worship and who is the supreme personality of Godhead and who is the ultimate supreme personality of Godhead. It does gives, but Veda will not impose upon anyone anything, because Lord has given the free will to the jiva, and at any time he doesn't want to interfere the free will. You see, to that extent he is tolerating. You see, Lord is residing in everybody as a Paramatma. And the most sinful person in this world, while he is doing this grievous sin, the Supreme Lord, although sitting in his heart, he doesn't object. Because he has given free will to the jiva. Whatever jiva is willing, he is free to do that. So similarly, Vedas are the sound manifestation of the Supreme Lord. They are also very neutral. If you are not going to ask, whom should I worship, he will not tell. If you are motivated and goes to Veda and ask, oh, how I should worship Ganesha, it will tell. So this is how you should worship Ganesha. But if somebody asks this question to Veda, whom should I actually worship? It will only tell that you should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, the Nanda Nandana, Yashoda Nandana. It will always tell, or Vishnu. But not everybody goes and asks. So that's the reason, there are a lot of confusions in this society. People are not decisive enough who is the supreme worthy of worship, and what should be the mood of worship. The mood of worship should be like the gopis. Ashish Tyagi has posted a very beautiful post yesterday. That should be the mode of worship. That's the highest mood. Okay, we are deviating from the discussions. So again, coming back, let's go to. Oh, time is off. Okay, so let's give a overview of. Let's take an overview of chapter 2. Then we will discuss tomorrow the first person. So in chapter 2, what we will see, again it is divided into 5 sections. In the first section, Arjuna is surrendering. Arjuna is developing further doubts. He will further explain, his indecisive nature and ultimately surrendering. And in the second section, we will see Krishna first orient Arjuna, gives him the knowledge of proper identity, knowledge of body and soul. By knowing this proper knowledge, or this is called Atma Jnana, who are we really? And by this Atma Jnana, he is again telling that you should fight, because there is no death for the soul. Bhishma, Drona, ultimately they are the soul. There is no death. Why you are lamenting? You fight. Again, I will explain in greater detail, but just in short. And then further, he is giving that why you think that you will not enjoy. If you fight, if you win, you enjoy the kingdom. If you lose, a warrior will be promoted to the heaven. So you will also enjoy that. Why you are thinking that you will not enjoy? Even though in fight, you will enjoy. So there he explains all these karmakandic activities like sakama karma. Although these are the inferior knowledge, but still he first gives this because Arjuna is coming from this perspective. So Krishna, as a teacher, he is not throwing the PhD level of knowledge. No, he is taking Arjuna from his level. So sakama karma knowledge he is giving. Then he is giving that, this Atma, basically it is his in journey of purification. So through this work, you will be purified. Because this works, if somebody will work according to the Vedic injunctions, Vedic instructions are from the Supreme Lord. So just by aligning himself to the Vedic instructions or injunctions, he will be purified. And the purifications will be faster if there is niskama. There is no any desire of results from the any work. Rather, this work is done for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. If from that conception somebody does this, this is niskama karma yoga or buddhi yoga. So you should fight without any reactions, without having any desire of what will happen, whether I will win or defeat. No, this is my desire that battle will take place. So you have to, if you will fight in that way as a service to the Supreme Lord, that will bear no reaction. So this is this is how your heart will be purified and you will be worthy for liberation. And then Arjuna is asking, oh, is there any such personality? How can I know him? Who is already self-realized, who knows his real nature of soul? Because knowledge is something that he gives in section 2, that you are not this body, you are the soul, and he's giving various arguments about that and teachings. But then how you will realize about this? Knowledge is input, how it will convert into the output of realization. So through this niskama karma yoga, through the process of niskama karma. And then in the 5th section, he is explaining various characteristics of such persons who are already self-realized, sthita prajna. So there also, in all this section, he is telling Arjuna, the conclusion is you have to fight. 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 Because, who is fixed in Krishna consciousness, he knows the ultimate, the Paramadharma is to do the duty what is told by the Supreme Lord for his pleasure. So Krishna is telling fight, so Arjuna should fight without giving all such stupid arguments. Although, all such arguments Krishna knew that where, in which orientation it is coming from, but very methodically he is refuting his arguments one by one. So that means Krishna gives respect to our individual thinking also. Krishna is very much giving respect to our individual thinking. So he is not just telling that, oh Arjuna, you see, you fight, I am telling. No, he is really enlightening him. So we'll see all of them in upcoming classes. So hoping that it will be a beautiful journey. And this chapter 2 is the longest chapter, and this chapter is named as Contents of Gita summarized by Srila Prabhupada. And that means this is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. All the beautiful concepts are summarized in this chapter 2. So that means it will give a glimpse of karma, it will give a glimpse of jnana, it will give a glimpse of bhakti. So that's the reason this is called Contents of Gita summarized. This is a very important chapter. So I would request all of you to be very attentive and also attend every day so that you can have a continuation of understanding. Thank you all very much for your patientful hearing and enthusiastic participation. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Hare Krishna, Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, Hari Bol.